guys, Cindy Holt here. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of these over-the-top beaded necklaces. I've always admired these and I thought that it was way too much work. Actually, it wasn't, and it was a whole lot of fun in the process. Had a little help, had my Sculpey bead roller and my Sculpey bead rack. Oh boy, this made life much easier. Let's get started and I'll show you just how to do it. So in order to make this great necklace, first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to make a lot of round beads, right? Well, what I did for this was I used the Sculpey bead roller, but I also measured, instead of measuring each piece in the cup here, what I did was I figured out how much clay it took. And I know on my pasta machine it's a number 3 using this circle cutter, and this will just fit into the measuring cup. There we go. So perfect. We're ready to go. We can punch out as many of these as we can and roll these balls. Now I know after 22 years I should be able to roll a round ball, right? Well, that's true. But this bead roller makes it so nice to get it just perfectly smooth. Let me show you here real quick. First of all, bead rolling 101. When my boys were younger, they showed me that when you cup your hands, it rolls around the bead. If you flatten your hands and roll on the outside of your hands, it makes an oblong bead. Okay, we want the round bead. There we go. I just get it roughly to the size. I pop it in. This is the smallest of the bead rollers. I think it says 13 millimeter on the measuring cup there. I very lightly roll this just for a couple of seconds, just to get it nice and smooth. Let me do this one more time. There we go. And we can do a couple more of these real quick. Once we have 5, then I'll show you how I load it onto the bead baking needle. The Sculpey bead baking rack and the needles are a great tool because they're so sharp and it's so easy to load those on. All right, couple seconds there. Perfect. So you can see when I say make 75 of these round balls, it goes really quickly though. And actually, I've never actually counted the balls on there because I didn't want to think about how many I had to make. But I know that it was 2 packages of clay. And when I cut out all of those, the round circles on the first one, it was about 33, I think. So that's probably pretty close. And you see I'm folding this in the quarters and then just getting it as close to a round before I roll it as possible. And I'm using the souffle latte clay. I love the color of this clay. It is such a warm, nice neutral. It just looks classy to begin with. Oh, that one's got a couple little marks in it. There we go. And one more here. Just like that. Just a couple seconds in here. Again, I'm not putting any pressure on this whatsoever to get the balls. Okay, let's move on to doing putting these on the bead rack next, okay? Now we're ready to put our beads here onto our bead rack so that we can bake them and keep them nice and round. If we bake them like this, they're going to probably roll against each other and touch, get a little bit flattened on one side from baking. So we're just going to take these very, very sharp pins and just twist. No pressure on it, just twist through. These pins are so sharp that you hardly get any sort of an exit on it at all. But you do get a small one, so I want to show you. This is the hole that I created with, and this is the exit hole. So I'm going to go through here to put this on the second one. This is going to be the one that they actually bake on. I should have let these set just a little bit more. The interesting thing about the souffle clay is it sets up very quickly and cools much quicker than I think regular clay does. I'm not sure what that is. What's that all about? All right, bring this one on. And I leave myself about 2 fingers distance here. so that I can spin it every time I add one of these on. That way I get no distortion on my beads. There we go. 2 more. 5 is about what I put on each one. Maybe it's so that I can count them by 5s, I don't know. It just seems like that's a comfortable amount for me. Oh, sit up. One more here. Perfect. Now we can take our bead tool, our rack. All right, we're ready to put our beads onto the bead baking rack now. So the pins can be positioned either across from each other like this on, I use a piece of cardboard to bake on, or they can be next to each other or spaced apart like this. The one thing that I did want to point out to you is to make sure that if you have beads all the way up here against the edge, that they're not touching the metal when they go in, because you'll get a shiny spot, okay? So make sure that when you position this in the oven, these are not touching, and that's great. You bake them right on here. Once they're cooled, ta-da, they just pull right off. Just like that. There we go. And then you put your pens away, like I'm going to do right now. There we go. Now, let me set this aside, because now we get to the fun part. We're going to put the necklace together. This is a little bit of, I don't know what you would call this, beader's felt or something. It's designed so that it holds the beads for you. And I don't know about you, but I just love having all these pretty shiny beads everywhere all the time. It just makes me feel so luxurious. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our head pins on here. T-pins, whatever you want to call them. Now I inspect these carefully because I've discovered that there's different sizes in there, and I want to make sure I get a size that fits into my bead. Remember we talked about the 2 different size holes? Well, I want to make sure that I use the smaller of the holes. And I push this on just like that. I take my wire cutters and I cut. And this is probably a long cut. That's close to a 1/2 inch, I think. The reason why is because we want this nice big loop, because it's going to get real tight there on the chain. Now you'll notice with my round nose pliers, I've gripped this just so that the very edge of it shows, and I roll it back towards me. I don't have to worry about breaking the neck on this or anything, because it's going to go into the chain, okay? And I would do the same thing for the crystal beads here. The little crystal goes here, the bigger crystal goes up here on top, okay? And you'll notice I've done several of these, and I leave the loops really open so that I can hook in there on the chain, okay? Let me get my chain. I selected this chain because, first of all, it's sturdy. It looked like I could do it without having to pull things off, you know, the links coming apart. And also because the links are the same size. Now, normally when we would work on something like this, we would have to make sure that we got things on the flat links so everything would hang nice. This doesn't matter. We're going to jam as many in there as we can. Now, I would call these, let me see. I think they're pointed chain pliers. So I'm going to take the first piece here, and I put my finger over the pinhole there. It seems to hold that piece of wire straight for me, and it doesn't move. And I bring it around and I take the pliers and pull that in. I had decided that I was going to put 2 of the latte balls on each link, and then every other link add one of these great pieces with the crystals on it. So let's start with one of those, okay? There we go. And let's pull it around. Now see, this one I can't put my finger on it to get it to close. That's why I like using these flat. There we go. I can just pinch it gently. And one more here on this first link. Excellent. There we go. Now you can see we've got all 3 pieces in one link. We're going to start on the link directly next to it and just put 2 of the latte balls in it. Now you may decide that you want to do every other link. You may not want them as tight as I have mine put together. You might want it a little bit more free-flowing. I wanted to make it really super dense. That's why I did it that way. There we go. You see these go together pretty quickly. Now we've got 2 links filled with 5 different pieces here. And we'll start here. Once I get going on this, I add the crystals first just because they are a little bit more difficult. And this does get easier, trust me. At least that's what I kept telling myself, it was getting easier. Might not have been. Now I'm holding the ball here so that I keep my link and I don't have to keep looking for it every time. Oh, come here, silly. And I work from one side to the other. So probably now I would go and work on the other side of this, of what I call center, that first piece there. And I actually ended up adding chain to both sides to make it come out even. That seemed to be the better, easier way of doing it. It looks kind of goofy at first, but as you add more on here, it'll tighten up and get much, much prettier. Let's add 2 more on here. We're on the plain link now, right? Here we go. You see I'm grasping this with my pliers to hold it tight so that I can get in there and get the link. That doesn't seem to make much of a difference now. It will when this starts getting full, trust me. All right. Let's get 1 more in here. Again, I'm holding my thumb against that on the back to hold it in place there. There you go. And continue out, make it as long as you want it, as thick as you want it, add as many crystals as you want, and you'll have a fabulous necklace by the time you get done. So you see what I mean? It wasn't that tough to do. I was really surprised. In fact, I'm already planning my next one. I think I might do it out of souffle jade. I think that's going to be absolutely stunning for the fall. And actually it's like a seasonal necklace too, if you think about it, without being over the top with it. Yeah. You know, this one, I went through my wardrobe, 70% of my wardrobe it looks great with. Even my t-shirts. You know, now that I'm retired, that is my uniform, t-shirts. I mean, t-shirts and jeans or t-shirts and shorts out here in my deluxe designer studio. It's a great day outside. I've got my upper doors here open. You might be able to hear the palm trees blowing out there. And you know what? I'm going to go take advantage of it and head down to the beach. I'll see you guys next time, okay? Bye-bye.